The Galactic Council chamber was unlike anything Elias Morgan had ever seen in his life. The walls glowed with a soft blue light, as if made of living crystal that breathed in slow waves. Hundreds of beings from different star systems filled the grand circular hall, their voices blending into a constant hum of languages, tones, and strange clicks. Some floated in shimmering bubbles. Others stood on jointed limbs, and many radiated colors instead of speaking. Elias was the only human there. He stood alone in his seat, adjusting the stiff collar of his borrowed diplomat's uniform. It had been only 2 years since Earth had been invited to observe the council. Humans were still newcomers in the galaxy, seen as curious, but untested. Elias's role was simple: watch, learn, and avoid saying anything foolish. But humans had a habit of stepping beyond what was expected. The meeting had started with long debates. Representatives spoke of trust, alliances, and the fear that ancient rivalries between species might never truly end. One counselor, a towering insectoid named Koresh, had raised a question that silenced the room. "How?" Koresh asked, his mandibles clicking. "Can we believe in unity when none dare to bond across species lines? Who here would truly place their future in the hands of another race?" The chamber grew still. No one moved. No one spoke. The word bond carried great weight. In council tradition, a bond was no ordinary agreement. It was a lifelong partnership between two species, represented by two chosen individuals. Once accepted, both were expected to share trust, knowledge, and loyalty for as long as they lived. Backing out of such a promise was not just rude. It was a deep shame, one that could stain an entire species' reputation. No one wanted to take that risk. But then, as silence dragged on, Elias rose from his seat. His heart hammered in his chest, yet something inside him refused to stay quiet. He remembered Earth's history, moments when humans had stepped forward when no one else dared. Maybe this was one of those moments. "Humanity will bond," Elias said, his voice echoing through the chamber. At first he thought no one had heard him. Then hundreds of alien eyes, lenses, and glowing orbs turned toward him. The sound in the chamber shifted into murmurs, then into a sudden wave of astonishment. "You will bond?" asked Koresh, his mandibles clicking in disbelief. Elias swallowed. His mouth was dry. "Yes," he said. "We humans are new here. But if unity is what this council values, then let us show we believe in it." The chamber erupted with reactions. Some delegates laughed in disbelief, their forms shaking with amusement. Others hissed warnings, whispering to their neighbors that humans had no idea what they had just agreed to. A few, though, raised their voices in support. For the first time in many years, someone had stepped forward instead of shrinking back. The Speaker of the Council, a calm being of silver mist, raised a hand to silence the room. "Let it be recorded," the Speaker said, their voice carrying the weight of law, "that the representative of Earth has volunteered for a sacred bond. Humanity will stand in unity before the galaxy." The sound of the Speaker's declaration was final. A deep tone rang through the chamber, echoing like a bell. The decision was locked into history. Elias sat back down, his legs trembling. His mind screamed at him. "What have I done?" Hours later, when the meeting ended, Elias found himself walking the shining corridors of the council building, his thoughts tangled. He had imagined applause, maybe even respect. Instead, he carried a heavy knot of worry in his chest. He did not even know who humanity would be paired with. What if the partner was a species that found humans offensive, weak, or backward? He rubbed his temples. Humanity had come so far, but they were still children among ancient civilizations. And now, because of one impulsive decision, the future reputation of Earth rested on him. A small group of beings passed him in the corridor, their whispers sharp. Elias caught fragments. "Foolish. Human. Does not understand." He walked, faster, pretending not to hear. Finally, he reached his quarters, a modest room with smooth walls that shifted colors depending on his mood. The walls glowed faintly red, reflecting his agitation. Elias sat on the edge of the bed, burying his face in his hands. Bond, he muttered to himself. Why did I say that word? The truth was simple. He hated silence. He hated watching. Fear stopped progress. Maybe humans were reckless, maybe they were too bold, but at least they moved. At least they tried. That had always been the way of his people. Still, as he lay back on the bed, staring at the glowing ceiling, Elias knew the reality. He had agreed to something sacred. There would be no backing out. Tomorrow the council would reveal who humanity's partner would be. Tomorrow Elias Morgan would face the weight of a promise made not just for himself, but for every human alive. And for the first time since leaving Earth, he wondered if humanity's greatest strength, their courage to act, might also become their greatest burden. But deep inside, beneath the fear, there was also a spark. A quiet voice reminding him why he had spoken up. Humanity had always been underestimated, always doubted. Yet time and again they had surprised even themselves. Elias closed his eyes. The council chamber, the crystal walls, the endless voices, all of it faded as he whispered into the silence of his room. Human, don't back out now. The next morning, the council chamber was even more crowded than before. Rumors had spread quickly. Beings from distant sectors had come just to witness the announcement of humanity's first bond. Elias Morgan walked slowly into the chamber, feeling every eye, or whatever passed for eyes, turning toward him. The air buzzed with quiet chatter. Some laughed softly, others murmured doubts. Elias kept his head high, but inside, his stomach twisted. He wondered if they were waiting for him to stumble, to admit he had spoken in foolishness. But humans had a saying, if you start something, you finish it. He told himself he would not back down no matter how nervous he felt. The speaker of the council, the being of silver mist, floated into the center of the chamber. Their voice rang clear, calm, and strong. Yesterday, the speaker said, the representative of Earth stepped forward where others did not. Humanity has agreed to a bond. The council has considered carefully, and today the partner is revealed. The hall grew silent. Elias could hear the faint hum of the crystal walls, almost like a heartbeat. From one of the side passages, a tall figure walked forward. She was unlike anything Elias had seen before. Her body shimmered as though made of living glass, her form delicate yet strong. Her skin, or what looked like skin, was transparent crystal that caught the light in colors of blue, violet, and silver. Within her body, faint streams of light pulsed like rivers. The speaker's voice carried again. This is Scifi of the Velari, chosen representative of her people. She will stand as the partner of humanity. The Velari were well known across the galaxy. They were respected as keepers of memory, a race that lived in crystalline forms and shared thoughts through resonance instead of words. Their bonds with one another were deep, and their traditions were older than most council species. Elias's heart thudded. The Velari were the last race he had expected. Humans were flesh, blood, and constant chaos. The Velari were precise, ordered and ancient. Could such opposites truly bond? Scifi stopped in front of him. She tilted her head, the light within her body shifting gently. So, she said, her voice ringing like a soft chime. This is the human who spoke so quickly yesterday. Elias straightened, trying to appear calm. Yes, he said. Elias, Morgan from Earth, I didn't mean to speak out of turn, but I don't take my words back. Her crystal eyes glowed faintly as she studied him. Your kind is new to the stars. You have little understanding of what a bond means. I know, Elias admitted. But I also know it's a promise. And humans keep promises, even when they're afraid. There was a faint ripple of sound through the chamber. Some delegates, scoffing, others whispering. Scifi remained silent for a long moment, then, to everyone's surprise, she gave a soft laugh. It sounded like glass bells. You are reckless, she said. But perhaps that is what makes you interesting. The speaker raised their hand. It is agreed. The human Elias Morgan and Scifi of the Velari will begin preparations for the bond. In 3 cycles, the trial of harmony will begin. The chamber filled with voices again, a storm of opinions. Some called the pairing impossible. Others whispered that perhaps it was clever. If humans failed, their weakness would be proven for all to see. Elias walked beside Sarika as they left the chamber, still trying to understand what had just happened. The crystal walls reflected her shimmering body as she moved with calm grace. Finally, Elias spoke. "What exactly happens in this bond? No one has explained it to me in full detail." Sarika glanced at him, her eyes glowing softly. "It is not a simple oath, human. To bond means to open your mind, to allow another species into your thoughts and emotions. The trial of harmony will test whether we can align. If we succeed, we will carry the bond for life. If we fail—" She paused, her light dimming for a moment. "If we fail, your people will be marked as unready. The shame will remain for centuries." Elias's steps slowed. The weight of her words pressed hard on his shoulders. He had thought this was about trust, about showing courage, but now he realized it was far more than that. Humanity's reputation rested on him alone. "Why me?" he asked softly. "Why choose a human? Why not bond with another species that's already proven itself?" The trial of harmony was not just a test. For most species, it was a sacred ritual, one that decided if two very different minds could walk the same path. Elias Morgan had never imagined he would be part of such a thing. Yet 3 cycles after his bold words, he stood with Sarika of the Valari in the trial chamber, feeling the weight of 1,000 unseen eyes upon him. The chamber was vast and round, built of silver stone that glowed faintly from within. At the center lay a circular platform, smooth as glass, surrounded by floating crystals that shifted slowly in the air. The Speaker of the Council explained the rules in a calm voice that carried across the hall. "There are 3 tasks," the Speaker said. "Each one is designed to test trust, balance, and unity. If you succeed, your bond will be recognized. If you fail, the Council will know that your species cannot yet walk this path." Elias glanced at Sarika. She stood tall and calm, her crystalline body glowing faintly blue. She looked like she belonged here, while he felt like an intruder. Still, he straightened his back. Humans were never known for perfection, but for persistence. The first task began. Task 1. Moving the construct, a glowing shape formed in the air above the platform. It was an energy construct, shimmering like liquid light. The task was simple in words, but difficult in practice. Elias and Sarika had to move the shape together, using only their thoughts. "Focus," Sarika said softly, her voice like chimes. "You must calm your mind." "Calm?" Elias almost laughed. His heart raced, his palms sweated, and his thoughts scattered everywhere. But he closed his eyes, trying to listen to Sarika's steady voice. He imagined pushing the light, but it barely stirred. Frustration bubbled inside him. He was failing, already. Then Sarika's voice touched his mind, not words, but a soft resonance. He sensed her steadiness like a river flowing. She wasn't pushing the construct, she was guiding it gently. "Don't force it," she whispered in thought. "Guide it with me." Elias took a deep breath. Instead of pushing, he imagined walking, beside her, letting his thoughts align with her calm rhythm. Slowly, the construct moved, first an inch, then a foot, then across the platform. The council chamber filled with a low murmur. Few had expected the human to last even this long. Elias opened his eyes to see the glowing shape floating exactly where it was meant to be. A small smile tugged at his lips. For the first time, he felt hope. Task 2. The labyrinth of choices, the platform shifted. The silver floor rippled and reshaped into a maze of walls, twisting corridors glowing with faint light. Elias and Sarika were placed at different entrances. "The labyrinth requires unity," the speaker said. "If one reaches the center without the other, both will fail." Elias stepped forward into the glowing maze. The walls seemed alive, shifting when he wasn't looking. At first, he tried to navigate on his own, turning left then right, moving quickly. But the further he went, the more lost he felt. "Elias." Sarika's voice echoed faintly in his mind. You cannot move alone. You must listen. He closed, his eyes for a moment leaning on the wall. I don't even know where you are, he admitted. You do, she replied. If you quiet your thoughts, you will feel me. Elias forced himself to slow down. Humans were used to rushing, but rushing here only led to dead ends. He focused on Sarika's presence like a soft vibration in the air. He turned when he felt her resonance grow stronger, paused when it weakened. Slowly, step by step, their paths drew closer. Finally, at the center of the labyrinth, he saw her glowing form waiting. They had arrived almost at the same time. When their hands touched, the maze dissolved into light. Elias exhaled heavily, his body tense but his spirit lifting. That was not easy. Sarika tilted her head, her crystal eyes glowing. And yet you did not give up. That is interesting. Task 3, the sharing of memory. The final task was the most difficult. 2 seats formed on the platform, glowing faintly. The third trial, the speaker said, is the sharing of memory. You must open your mind and show your truth. If the bond is real, you will endure. If not, your link will shatter. Elias's throat went dry. Share his memories. With the entire council watching, he thought of his childhood, his mistakes, his small triumphs. Humans were messy, full of fears and flaws. How could that compare to the polished ancient wisdom of Sarika's people? He sat on the glowing chair anyway. Sarika sat across from him, her form shimmering. Do not hide, she said softly. Truth is the heart of a bond. The light surrounded them, and suddenly, Elias's mind was opening. Images spilled forth. His mother's smile at the kitchen table, his father teaching him to ride a bicycle, his first taste of failure at school, his first victory when he stood up again. He saw himself laughing with friends, crying alone, standing, under the stars on earth, dreaming of worlds beyond. For a moment, shame filled him. His memories were unpolished, raw, and painfully human. But then he felt Sarika's presence, not judging, but listening. And suddenly, her memories flowed into him too. He saw endless crystalline halls, songs of light passed from one Vailari to another, centuries of quiet reflection, the loneliness of being bound to traditions so rigid they left no room for change. Their worlds were so different. And yet, in the space between them, something connected. Her calm steadiness touched his restless energy. His raw emotions touched her ancient silence. When the light faded, Elias was breathing hard, his eyes damp. Sarika's glow pulsed brighter than before. She looked at him, her voice soft but clear. You carry chaos, yet also hope. Your memories are not weakness. They are fire. The speaker's voice rose once more. The human and the Vailari have passed the trial of harmony. The chamber erupted in sound. Some astonished, some doubtful, some even impressed. Elias sat back, his heart racing. Against all odds, he had not broken. Humanity had not broken. The trial of harmony was over, but the echoes of it still filled the council chambers. News spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The human had not only survived, but succeeded. Elias Morgan and Sarika of the Vailari had done what many thought impossible. Some delegates whispered that it was a miracle. Others murmured that it was dangerous. For centuries, bonds had been predictable, limited to species that already trusted each other. But now a new path had been opened. Elias felt both proud and uneasy. He walked through the shining halls of the council building, listening to the mix of voices around him. Some alien ambassadors greeted him with cautious respect, nodding as he passed. Others turned their heads away, their bodies stiff with disapproval. Humanity had stepped into history, but history was never without resistance. The seeds of doubt in a quiet chamber lit by floating lanterns, Sarika stood before a group of her own kind. The Vailari were tall and elegant, their crystal bodies shimmering like frozen starlight. They spoke to her in low, vibrating tones. "This bond is dangerous," one of them said, his voice echoing like a deep bell. "Humans are unstable. Their minds are unstructured. They will only bring weakness to us." Another added, "You saw his memories, Sarika. Chaotic, restless, filled with confusion. That is not harmony. That is imbalance." Sarika listened in silence. The light within her body flickered as she remembered Elias's raw memories, his laughter, his struggles, his fire. To her people, those emotions might look like flaws, but she had felt something more, something alive. "They are flawed," she admitted softly. "But they do not hide their flaws. They carry them openly, and in that there is strength." Her people looked unconvinced. "Or danger," one replied. "The whispering faction." Meanwhile, in another corner of the council complex, a different group of delegates gathered. They were from various species, but they shared one concern: fear of change. "If humans can bond with the Violari," hissed one scaled diplomat, "what is to stop them from bonding with us all? Imagine the power they could gain if they spread their influence through bonds." "They are reckless," another agreed. "Their courage is nothing but recklessness in disguise. They leap before they think. One day they will leap too far, and the galaxy will pay the price." And so the whispers began. Whispers meant to reach Sarika's ears. Whispers meant to plant seeds of doubt in her mind. Elias's struggle. Elias was not blind to the shifting atmosphere. He could feel it every time he entered the council chamber. Conversations hushed when he walked by. Delegates stared too long. Some even smiled politely, but their eyes carried unease. He returned to his quarters, pacing the room. The walls glowed, faintly red, reflecting his troubled mood. "Was this a mistake?" he muttered to himself. "Did I put all of Earth at risk because I couldn't keep my mouth shut?" The weight of it pressed on him. One man, representing billions. One promise that could not be undone. If he failed, Earth would not just be embarrassed. It would be shamed, locked out of trust for centuries. For the first time, Elias thought about walking away. Maybe it would be better to admit weakness now before the bond was sealed fully. Maybe it was not too late. But then he remembered the trial of harmony. He remembered Sarika's voice in his mind, calling his memories fire, not weakness. He remembered how the construct had moved when he stopped forcing it, how the labyrinth had opened when he trusted her, how their memories had intertwined. Maybe humans were chaotic, but maybe chaos was not always a curse. Sarika's conflict. In her own quarters, Sarika sat quietly, her crystal body dimming to a soft gray. Nay, yet not alone. Echoes of Elias's memories still lingered in her. The council chamber was brighter than ever, its crystal walls glowing with shifting colors. Hundreds of delegates filled the seats, their voices blending into a storm of expectation. Everyone wanted to see what would happen when a human and a Valerie stood together for the bond. Some came hoping for success. Others came only to watch failure. Elias Morgan stood at the edge of the chamber trying to steady his breathing. His uniform felt heavier than before, and his heart beat so loudly he thought the entire room might hear it. 3 steps away, Sarika stood calm and glowing, her crystalline form steady as if carved from starlight. "Are you ready?" she asked softly, her voice like ringing glass. "No," Elias admitted with a shaky smile, "but I'll do it anyway." Sarika tilted her head, studying him. "That is what makes you human, isn't it? You move forward even when you are afraid." Elias gave a nervous laugh. "Something like that." The chamber of bonding. At the center of the chamber stood the bonding platform. It glowed with golden light, surrounded by floating crystals that resonated in soft harmony. The speaker of the council, the being of silver mist, drifted into place. "Today," the speaker announced, "we witness the bond between Sarika of the Velari and Elias Morgan of Earth. If they succeed, humanity will take its place among the bonded races. If they fail, the shame will endure for generations." The words echoed across the chamber. Elias swallowed hard. Generations. The weight of billions of lives pressed down on his shoulders. He stepped onto the platform beside Sarika. The golden light wrapped around them like a cloak. "Prepare yourselves," the speaker said. The moment of doubt, the bond required both to open their minds completely, to trust without walls or fear. Sarika turned toward Elias, her crystal eyes glowing softly. But she hesitated. In her heart, the whispers of her people still echoed. Humans are unstable. They will fail you. They cannot be trusted. Doubt flickered through her light. What if the bond shattered? What if all they proved was that humans were too weak to walk among the stars? Elias felt the hesitation through the connection forming between them. Fear shot through him. His own doubts rose like a tide. Every whisper he had heard, every sneer, every sideways glance. Maybe they were right. Maybe he had spoken too quickly that day. Maybe he was not the man humanity needed. He almost stepped back. His body trembled on the glowing platform. And then he remembered. The human spirit Elias remembered. The trial of harmony. The moment when the energy construct had moved, not because he forced it, but because he trusted. He remembered the labyrinth when he had stopped rushing and started listening. He remembered opening his memories and showing his flaws, and Sarika had not turned away. Promises, he thought. Humans kept promises not because they were easy, but because they were hard. He took a deep breath, lifted his head, and spoke loud enough for the entire chamber to hear. "Humans are not perfect," he said. His voice shook at first but grew stronger with every word. "We fall, we fail, we doubt. But we always rise again. We keep going when it's hard. We keep our word, even when we're afraid. That is who we are." The chamber fell silent. Delegates leaned forward, their gazes fixed on him. The golden light around the platform pulsed brighter as if responding to his words. Sarika's glow flickered. She looked into Elias's eyes, and in that moment, she felt the truth of him. Raw, unpolished, imperfect truth, but strong, burning, alive. And suddenly her doubt melted away, the bond sealed. "I will not turn away," Sarika said, her voice ringing like crystal bells. "I accept this bond." The golden light surged. The floating crystals vibrated, sending waves of sound through the chamber. Elias felt warmth flood his chest as Sarika's presence filled his mind again. Memories, feelings, and thoughts intertwined, not as a blur but as a harmony of differences. His restless human spirit met her calm Velari order. His fire met her stillness. Their bond was not neat or perfect, but it was strong. The chamber shook with the resonance of their union. The speaker raised their misty hand. "The bond is complete." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then voices burst out, rising in astonishment. Some cheered, some argued, some whispered urgently to their neighbors. But all agreed on one thing. Something new had happened, something no one had expected. After the ceremony, as the chamber slowly emptied, Elias and Sarika remained on the platform, their bond still glowing faintly between them. "You did not back away," Sarika said softly. Elias smiled, tired but relieved. "Neither did you." She tilted her head, her crystal eyes glowing warmly. "I think, together, we can surprise them all." Elias laughed quietly. "Humans are good at that." For the first time since this journey began, Elias felt the weight on his shoulders lighten. Humanity had not only survived, they had proven something powerful. Not through strength of arms or cleverness of words, but through the simple, stubborn truth of the human spirit. To keep moving forward, no matter the fear. And as the council debated, argued, and whispered about what had just happened, Elias and Sarika stood side by side, knowing the true test was not over. The bond was only the beginning. The galaxy would never look at humans the same way again. The chamber of the council remained alive with whispers long after Elias and Sarika stepped down from the glowing platform. Delegates of 100 worlds, spoke in hushed tones, some curious, some doubtful, and some openly alarmed. The sight of a human bonded to a Vailari was not something any of them had imagined. Elias could feel their gazes like a heavy weight pressing against him. But this time he did not shrink beneath it. The bond with Sarika pulsed in his mind like a calm heartbeat, steady and sure. He was not alone anymore. "Do you think they will accept it?" Elias asked softly as he walked beside Sarika through the crystalline corridors that led away from the chamber. "Some will, some will not," Sarika answered honestly. Her glow flickered gently, reflecting her calm wisdom. "But it does not matter. The bond exists. No one can deny it now. What they do with this truth will shape the future." Elias nodded slowly. The future. He had once thought of it only in terms of Earth, his people, his world. Now the word meant something far larger. The debate of the council. The council did not let them leave fully. Later that day, they were summoned again to stand before the great circle of delegates. This time the chamber was tense. The speaker of the council, the being of silver mist, rose and addressed the assembly. "We have seen what no one believed possible," the speaker said, their voice echoing like wind across stone. "A human and a Vailari are bonded. This cannot be undone. The question before us is this: what shall we do with humanity?" One delegate, a tall insectoid from the Trisari, clicked angrily. "It is a mistake. Humans are reckless. They leap without thinking. This bond will collapse and bring danger to us all." Another delegate, a scaled being from the Jar coalition, leaned forward. "And yet we all saw it. The bond did not collapse. It grew stronger because of human stubbornness. Should we not consider what this means?" The chamber erupted into arguments, some warning of danger, others marveling at possibility. Elias listened, heart racing, while Sarika stood calm beside him. At last the speaker raised their misty hand. "The council must decide. But before we do, let the bonded speak once more. Humanity has the right to be heard." Elias speaks for humanity. Elias felt his knees tremble, but he stood tall. For the first time, he did not wish to run from their eyes. He took a deep breath and spoke. "Council members, I know many of you think we are too new, too untested, too dangerous. Maybe you are right. Humans are not perfect. We argue. We make mistakes. We take risks others would not. But that is also our strength." He paused, letting the silence draw them closer. "When others stop, we keep moving. When others give up, we find another way. We do not claim to be the strongest or the wisest, but we are willing to try, even when the path looks impossible. That is what helped me stand here today. That is why the bond with Sarika holds. Not because I was fearless, but because I moved forward even while afraid." His voice steadied, stronger now. "If you want a species that never changes, never risks, never surprises you, then perhaps humans are not ready. But if you want a species that will bring something new, something alive, then give us this chance." The chamber was silent when he finished. Even the hum of the crystals seemed to fade. Sarika touched his arm lightly, her glow warm with pride. "The council's decision." After long hours of debate, the speaker returned. Their voice was slow and deliberate. "The council recognizes the bond between Sarika of the Vailari and Elias Morgan of Earth. This bond is proof that humanity holds a place among us. From this day forward, humanity is welcomed as a provisional member of the Council of Worlds." Gasps spread through the chamber. Some delegates nodded with respect. Others muttered their disapproval. But the decision was made. Humanity had been given a path into the stars. Elias exhaled, his shoulders finally relaxing. Relief washed over him, mixed with a strange, trembling excitement. They had done it. A private moment later, as the chamber emptied and the great debate ended, Elias and Sarika found a quiet balcony overlooking the endless starfield. The galaxy stretched before them, vast and unknown. "So, provisional member," Elias said with a grin. That's basically the council's way of saying, we don't fully trust you, but let's see what happens. Sirika's crystalline eyes shimmered. Trust is not given easily, but it can be earned. That is,